Welcome to Elite Broker, the podcast showcasing the leading players and stories of success from Australia's broking industry.
Hello and welcome back to Elite Broker. Hope you're all having a fantastic week so far. In this week's episode, we're talking to one of the leading equipment and asset finance brokers in Australia, Brendan Scotter, the Director of Commercial Point Finance. If you've not heard of Brendan, he's a broker up here in New South Wales, and he's been building his business, Commercial Point Finance, really focusing on the equipment and asset finance space. And the last few weeks, we've been talking to a few commercial and asset finance brokers. What an interesting space to be working in particularly at this time of year. So we thought we'd haul Brendan into the studio to ask him about his top tips for those thinking about writing asset finance or commercial equipment finance, his insights into what he's been doing over his career and what he's doing to delight his customers so far. So thank you for joining us, Brendan. How are you going?
Very well. Thanks for having me, Annie.
Well, thank you so much for coming into the studio to join us. And we'd love to share your story with the broader audience. We obviously know you from all of the awards you've won in the past. You've been an Australian Broking Award winner. I know you've won countless awards across the industry as well for equipment and asset finance. But for anyone who's not had the pleasure of meeting you, can you give us a bit of an overview of how long you've been broking for and when you started broking?
Sure. I started broking in 2011. So going on 12 years, 13 years almost. So yeah, that's started off my own bat in the sense that I discovered the industry. Just edit that. You can
I'll ask
introduce.
A question. Yeah. So you started in 2011. What were you doing before you became a broker?
I've worked for myself essentially. For about 25 years, and I was a sales and marketing consultant for building products. Mm-hmm. So I would find the latest widget that was soon to hit the market or was of high demand, and they happened to all be in the enviro space, mm-hmm. A lot of them. And so I'd approach the product owner, manufacturer, and then I'd market that product to the building industry within Australia. And so always working for myself. I've always liked the commission only or brokerage only model because it's essentially you can you are rewarded for your ability, so that you're not held down or with regard to your income earning capacity. So and it's a great challenge. That's the fun part as well, I think. Yeah,
it requires a lot of discipline as well. If you're not just waiting for a paycheck, you actually got to go and earn it.
Yeah, well, I've always said it certainly gets you up in the morning, but it's for me it obviously inspires me. I wouldn't be doing it this long, but that's the joy of it.
Yeah,
it's just the enthusiasm that it brings, and it's essentially it's a game, right? I've always said business is a game, life is a game, but business is a game, and I've had a large sporting background, and there's a lot of correlations with sport and business, and so for me it's the challenge of that, and just how to overcome the obstacle and the reward of achieving that, and how good that feels. Yeah.
For anyone who is tuning into this, when Brendan arrived this morning for the podcast, he stood up and I was like, whoa, tall. So what sport's your background? I'm guessing basketball.
Yes, yeah. I played schoolboy state level national basketball, and then went on to play very short time, let me emphasise that, because I am certainly no Michael Jordan, in the NBL. And then I decided, with a few wise words from some old, we're talking, 25, 30 years ago, smart old ex-players saying, I think you better to go and get an education. So I went to university and became a high school teacher.
Oh.
So, yeah.
So high school teaching, marketing, and now broking. What was the trigger point then to make you decide on broking?
Essentially, I was, as I said, in the industry with the building products. What I found was that as I say, Annie, in the business, I've got a few cliches that I use. One of them is, look, I know how to bake a cake. I know the recipe for baking a cake. It's just the different flavour of cake. Mm-hmm. So, in other words, what I was doing, I could see and understand from my research into talking to a few finance brokers initially in the mortgage space, and then talking to everybody I knew just to brainstorm the concept, because I like the idea of commission only or brokerage only, grow your own business, run for yourself. And so that it was obviously my wheelhouse. I was keen for a change with the business, with building industry, because by the time I would get a product specified, I'd have to go to, let's imagine you've got a new product, I've got to go and get the architects educated, the building designers, then they've got to draw the plans, then it's got to go and get quoted by the builder who's building, and there's 10 of those, and whoever the winner is, you then they then buy the product. It could be a year later. You don't get paid for another 6 months after that.
Yeah.
So the burn time was huge, and so that was tedious. And so this was a lot more positive in the sense that you can do a deal, settle it today, and you're paid today. And so that was a big plus.
The joys of commercial finance. I'm sure mortgage brokers are like, oh, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, that's right. So that's what enthused me about the commercial, the broking space, I should say. It fit my model perfectly because I really haven't enjoyed the concept of working for someone really my whole career, and that's why I left teaching. I was a high school PE and geography and outdoor education teacher. I did that for a couple of years, and at the time, I think it was a combination as well. There was a teacher oversupply at the time. This was early 90s, so it was very different to today, where we've got a major shortage. But so that combined with the fact that once I'd had a few contracts at schools and done some time, just the realisation that to me, look, teaching is glorious, and I love teaching and kids. But I thought, right, this is the curriculum, so we just do this over and over, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, that to me. You'll hear the word challenge come up a lot. That was like, okay, this is going to be a bit too tedious for me. I need to have more challenge along the way because, yes, don't get me wrong, the kids are challenging, but it just wasn't for me. Yeah. But I certainly enjoyed it. So that's what kind of drew me into that. So I travelled a lot overseas for a number of years with playing basketball and just travelling. And so I came back, and my father was a national sales manager after being in the boat broker for 30 years.
Oh, cool. So
he ran his own businesses. So I've had, I suppose, a great role model in my father running his own businesses for many years, and he himself obviously being in a commission-only kind of status. So that was my I suppose, North Star as far as looking at mentors. He was certainly a big mentor in that space. And so I was literally, he said, look, coming back from overseas, look, here, come and jump in, have a crack at this building product that I'm doing. And it was really interesting. Building product actually was theming for Movie World, Dream World, Sea World. And so that was pretty interesting. So anyway, jumped into that and was literally back in the day before social media and internet, it was here's a telephone book.
Yeah.
Go to Sydney and ring everybody. So that's how I started, and that kind of kicked me off in that work for yourself, commission only kind of concept.
And so for broking, I mean, going into commercial and equipment finance, is that because you had already been around the builders, you already had looked at the marketing for equipment and I guess product previously, or was there anything else that attracted you to that rather than, for example, residential mortgage broking?
Well, good question. I was looking at mortgage broking, as I said, to start with, but then after talking to a whole bunch of people, I kind of decided, righto, this is what I think I want to do, and then I realised, wow, my brother actually is a commercial finance broker. Maybe I should talk to my brother. So that was a bit of a laugh. But anyway, so I reached out to my brother, Glenn Scotter. He actually runs Centrepoint Finance WA. Yeah. So he was with Centrepoint Finance, had been doing it for 4 or 5 years by that stage, I believe. And so, of course, he was quick to advise me, the positives and negatives of mortgage and commercial. He was obviously in commercial. And I think we both of us ended up doing mortgage broking ourselves to grow our businesses, to say yes to more customers. But that was, I was a mortgage broker for about 6 years, but I certainly started as a commercial broker. But yeah, I think it was the dealing with businesses more. not dealing with the mums and the dads and the emotion. And for me, that just suited me a great deal better from what I'd been previously in my previous life, dealing with businesses only. So that attracted me a great deal. And once again, you get paid a lot quicker. And the other great component is, depending on the size of the transaction or the opportunity that you can discover, your income from one deal can be quite significant. So I know, and I just at the time I just took him on word, and the logic was there, and I was from a commercial kind of background in professionally anyway, so that's how I fell into that role. But like I said, I did go and do. I did want to offer more to the client and to grow my business desperately. As I've grown a number of businesses. Well, let me say I've had my own consultancy business previously, but I'd had grown other products that I was marketing. So I'd have to start from scratch and have to build that particular awareness of that particular product. And so it was just a lot of grunt work, and lots of I would literally be going to see in that environment. I'd be going to sit down and have meetings with boardrooms full of architects and building designers and plumbers and national suppliers like Reese's and TradeLinks and national builders. And so I was very, very much on the marketing side of things.
You're very comfortable with business.
Yeah, that's right. So I'd seen a lot of, but I certainly didn't specifically think, look at what all the finance they're doing, maybe I should do that.
Yeah.
I literally fell into finance. So I as I've said before, I didn't have the university of the bank, which a lot of the other brokers in the commercial mortgage and asset space have, which I'm jealous of, because they've certainly had a great education, and I've had to learn on the fly, and just been very dogged and determined to catch up and understand. I didn't know what a chattel mortgage was when I started, day one. So, yeah. But I didn't start. I just did my Cert 4 and my diploma. Before I even started. Yeah. I just needed to jump in and try to learn as quick as I could, because I knew, as I said before, I knew the recipe for the cake. I knew how to bake the cake. No issue. I was 100% confident. I mean, during university, for example, I was looking to travel. Actually, it was just after university, and I was just looking to travel because I was playing some basketball overseas, and I had a few months to burn. So I literally went and sold encyclopedias door to door with a whole bunch of backpackers, not for the encyclopedia sales, but more that we just had the greatest time ever travelling around a group of misfits and through regional Victoria and New South Wales. It was crazy, but I happened to do extremely well at that, so that was funny, knocking on people's doors. So I think sales is always been a bit of a thing for me.
So when you actually started broking, I mean, you said your brother obviously in WA already a commercial broker. I love that you started broking and was like, oh wait, my brother actually does
Crazy,
this.
I know. I felt guilty, but it's true. Yeah.
But you decided, sibling rivalry, set up your own company rather than join him over in WA. You're going to set up your own business. What sort of things did you start off writing? What was your first deal?
Honestly, can't even remember. 12 years ago, it would have been small and difficult. My initial memories of the business, and he advised me well. He said, look, the first 5 deals you do are going to be horrific in the sense that they're probably leftover deals that other people can't do, and you're going to be Johnny on the spot to try and pull off a miracle deal. And that was true. So it was a great learning curve, though. Everything was. It felt a bit awkward and difficult at the time. My goodness, are they all going to be this tough and that type of thing? But no, it wasn't anything pretty. But it was. It's terrible how I can't remember.
No, that's all good. I mean, as you say, especially with equipment and commercial loans, when you're doing something like that, where it's a high turnover, you've got a high volume. It's not like you're only doing a few deals a day. You've got a few deals a year. You've got lots and lots of deals through your pipeline. So then looking at, I guess, when you first started setting up your business, and you've had lots of experience in doing that anyway with your marketing consulting business. You're used to being your own boss, so that that probably wouldn't have been a new experience for you. As you said, it's a different cake flavour, but same cake. But what was it that you did when you first started setting up? So, in terms of, how you chose your aggregator and how you decided what route to go down, not being a franchise owner, again, sounds like because you wanted very much to build your own business. So how did you choose which aggregation group to go with?
I essentially, as I joined with Centrepoint Finance through my brother, they themselves were, let's call it a boutique mini aggregator. So I was aggregating through Centrepoint. So essentially fell into that situation purely because they were the aggregator on the spot. They were bought out by COG a couple of years back now, and then I've transitioned over to COG.
Yep.
But during the process, just talking of aggregators, I've spent, of course, a bunch of due diligence at different times through my journey, wondering what the dark side's like. And so I've spoken to a number of aggregators along the way and assessed their options. And, so I've been happy with where we've landed. I think, look, the aggregation space is now quite competitive. There's quite a few coming out, and even there seems to be at the minute a new aggregator every 6 months. It's popping their head up. So so I think software, what they offer, you've got to look at, obviously, software that they offer. What one feature I use well is what broker support do they offer. So my business model has always been, I probably haven't mentioned it to this point yet, but I had a ventilation business, had 25 staff, and was in the middle of all that business consulting I was doing, and anyway was just. The result of that was, look, I really don't enjoy. I'm not big on managing huge staff. I'd rather have bring in consultants, bring in external parties to achieve whatever I need. So that's what I've employed here. So I've outsourced all the admin within the company, and I did that very effectively through Centrepoint. Initially, they had their admin team internally. And I was a business partner to Centrepoint, well, basically the entire time I was there. So I wasn't a Centrepoint employee as such. So because of that, I was using their team, and then I, essentially asked, can we just have a fee per document type of arrangement, so that because I think at the time I was the only business partner that they had, so I was a bit of a new situation for them. And so that grew, and they continue to do that further with others going forward, and that worked very well, and they had a great team. So COG themselves, that was another big draw card for me personally, because I needed to know that I didn't have to put on staff. I didn't want to have to carry that admin responsibility. And like any consultant group, any employee, I should say, there's been a few kinks we've had to knock out, but it's worked. It works, suits my business model really well. So I can only pay. I've got a fee for service is what I would rather than have a full-time staff member.
Yep. So you pay per file.
Essentially, yeah. You have a situation. Everybody might have it differently, but it's just for the application you pay X amount, for the docs you pay another, and for the settlement you pay another. And that's as simple as that. And look, they've also got the ability to write the entire deal. You can hand it over and say, here, you run and do everything. And then there's a brokerage split that they would organise. But, obviously that doesn't sit my model. Yeah. But that's also an option they specifically have. So that's a big draw card. And I think the other thing is the software. What software do they offer? What are they going to give you that's going to help manage your business? So so that's something that APIs into all the lenders, so you can press the button and off it goes. So, and then that you want this amazing software package that's going to give you a CRM, and it's going to run the deals for you, and it's going to give you a lot of reporting, etc., etc. So the current COG current system came across actually from Centrepoint, which was interesting. Had the worst name ever. They called it Bruce back in the day. But now it's called COG Connect, and it's a lovely system, but it just had an interesting name. And I knew the mother of Bruce, as we used to call her, Megan Muggleton. She's now with Capital Finance, but she's a lovely lady, but she grew the software package, and it's now a huge beast. But if anything, it's still developing, and so we're still, trying to tinker around the edges, trying to get that to be as perfect as we want it.
Technology is always an ongoing battle, I think, for the aggregators. And it's interesting that you chose COG because, of course, they're an asset finance specialist. They're not like a big mortgage... Because they're an asset finance specialist, they're not a big mortgage broking aggregation group. They have loads and loads of asset finance and equipment finance brokers. So it's good to find a fit that specialises in that area. And of course, as you mentioned, seeing more and more asset finance brokers popping up in the last few years because so many people are looking to specialise in just being an equipment finance or just being a commercial broker rather than being a diversified broker that offers everything. When you look at the types of loans you're writing now, are you mostly doing equipment and vehicles? Are you doing, sort of acquisitions? Are you doing cash flow? What sort of lending are you writing?
Well, asset finance, 100%, because I start the business. The concept is to push the business or to source new clients based upon a volume turnover type transaction. So on average, not always, but on average, the average business will be looking for asset finance, depending on their industry, more often than they will be for business acquisition or commercial property or cash flow, for example. So we start with the equipment finance relationship. Yes, so we do a ton of equipment finance, but then obviously, if being aware of many different products in the field, essentially it's a cliche, but of course we're positioning ourselves to be the go-to guy for finance. It's when I'm mentoring my team, it's purely that's all you want to be. And as I say to clients, look, if I want to get a tooth pulled out, I go to a dentist. If I want to dig a hole, I'll talk to you. If you want finance, you talk to me. Like, I'm just part of your team, part of your business. If you need me, I'm here. If not, I'll talk to you in 6 months' time. So as far as the business, yes, starts with equipment finance and then branches from there because you get to know them really well, and all of a sudden, I need a mortgage.
Yep.
Not a problem. I need some cash flow because I've got a crop that I've got to put down. No problem. We can look after that. And then look, I want to buy the place next door, and that could be in any industry. So we're doing commercial property. So it's a lovely way to come in and get some trust because it's all about gaining their trust. And the good thing is with equipment finance, you can start with smaller transactions. So you're not putting a farm on the line. It's just, I just need another ute, or I need a gantry crane, or whatever they're into. That's where you kick off, and then you hope to build trust, of course. And then when you get a few of those tough deals, and this is the thing with a lot of new clients. Look, I'm lucky now. I've been doing it long enough. I've done a very little advertising because I was a one-man band for a very long time. And so, in essence, very little marketing. Word of mouth has just, I've been run over with it. I call it, my boys are sick of me talking about it, but the snowball. You've got to build the snowball with any business. And so that snowball takes a long time to grow, and, you put a hell of a lot of grease into it early, elbow grease, getting it to the point where it then starts to run you over. And so what I've found is, the challenge of trying to keep up at times. It's been full on. But look, I was a bit of a silly chook because I would go and, I think I mentioned earlier, I decided I wanted to say yes to as many things as I could. And also just the challenge, it's crazy, but I just want to try something that's difficult. So let's become a mortgage broker. And this was, 3 or 4 years after I'd started more. And so I did probably 4 years, and then I started doing that. And so then I had an interesting situation because I had to try and find an aggregator. A mortgage aggregator, That's right. And this was in the time when they were either mortgage aggregators or they were equipment aggregators. And I think Connective at the time was just starting to do equipment, but it was extremely thin on the ground. So it was a language they didn't understand. So I ended up staying with Centrepoint, of course, for the equipment finance. They were the boutique aggregator. And then I went through specialist finance And once again, actually, they're WA based, and that was my brother actually gave me a hookup on that. So I jumped in with them, and they were great. We'll
lock it.
Yeah, good bloke, nice guy. So they accommodated me, and I said, listen, I'm going to write 0 mortgage loans, like compared to your lads. It's if I do 10 a year, I'll be over the moon. It's just purely just to have a finger in the pie, and so that worked well. Didn't write a lot of mortgages, but it certainly reinforced my love for commercial finance. If I'm not rude by saying that,
no,
because look, I think this is just my personal opinion. There's a lot to be said of the difficulty of doing the mortgage. It's a challenge, and I find that the amount of hours spent and the dollar return just isn't great enough. And I know they love their trail book, and it's great. I've got a little trail book there, but it's still, I can't justify it. And also I'm dealing with mums and dads, and that's great, but I'm just not interested.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it's such a different kettle of fish, and I think being a broker, obviously, a lot of people are their own business leaders, they're their own business owners, they have their own routes to walk. But I think seeing how we couple them together, and they're completely different industries almost. Like an equipment and asset finance broker has a very different life to a mortgage broker. So I'm always interested to talk to both and see what they're doing. But you mentioned there about, obviously having to find a mortgage aggregator. And nowadays, I think most aggregators have a commercial arm, commercial connective asset finance, for example, much bigger beast now. I think LMG has their own commercial arm. So a lot of them now diversifying because people are doing both. Let's take a quick break here, Brenda. When we come back, you've mentioned we a few times, and I want to pick your brain about who we is nowadays and who else is in the team with you. We'll get into that in just a moment. So looking at who the company is now, so you started off on your own when you actually decided to set up Commercial Point Finance. You had your central processing support through your aggregator. How long was it before you decided to bring somebody in to work alongside you, and who was that?
It was quite a while. It was many years. I've only had. It's only been not even 2 years. So I was 10 or 11 years in, and at that point, I think I'd won a few awards, and I honestly, my goal has not been to grow the business to have multiple brokers underneath me. I propose to be a pretty humble kind of guy. I just get on with it. I don't fuss on too much about wanting to be seen. But I was very much, I suppose, shocked. But look, it's a bit of a laugh because I always stir up the BDMs, and I'm always saying to them, hey, you've had the as I said, the education of the bank, and you've you know a lot about what you're on about, and you've got a great product and a good lender that you work for, and you're a good bloke or a good lass. Why don't you become a broker? I mean, what is it? What are you scared of? And I'm always just querying with them just to stir them up, really. Anyway, so I had that conversation with a bunch of them, really, and they'll all know who they are. And so then it came to one of them, knocked on my door and said, "Hey, I want you to be a mentor for me. I want to get into broking. I've thought about it forever." They've all had the same story. They've all, because they live with brokers. They see what the brokers can earn, and they can see the variety that we have. And I think the other big thing is, they're only limited to one product. And so as a broker, as I say to them, just think about the idea of you being able to say yes to almost anything, because you've got that many lenders in private lending space, to the majors, to the minors, to the second tiers, and then think of all the different products, and all the different lenders that live in those little nooks and crannies. So it's fun, and so they get enthused by that. But so
you convinced one of them.
Well, I didn't convince. They approached me, and although I had I stir them up, but. So it's probably a bit of my fault, but and so it was just a good time, and that was Craig Kirby, and so Craig Kirby joined the business coming on a year and a half ago now, and and he was at the time with Multiply Finance as a BDM, And so that's how I started. So it certainly wasn't something I've looked to plan to build. And I've now got 3 and 2 others and another one knocking on the door. So, but all of them have approached me. So I haven't actually looked to do.
Well, this is it brings me to an interesting point, because you were saying, you started building your business and the snowball effect happened, and then you were thinking, how on earth am I going to service this business? But now you've got 4 people in the team, 3 other people alongside you.
Yeah.
How are you able to keep running the business? Do you give them leads? Do they find their own leads? Like, how are you actually able to ensure that these 3 other brokers are able to, I guess, make a living?
It's a good point, and it's not easy. How do I say it? Look, with the experience that I've had, my idea was that I wanted to provide the brokers with a method. I have to edit that. Essentially, what I've done is I've looked at the new brokers, and I want to provide them with a story, a learning that provides them with the ability. As I said, I'm going to teach you how to fish. I'm not going to feed you, because I want to see them grow. And what I've done as well, I've not taken them on as staff, keeping with my principle. Mm-hmm. They have to be their own proprietary limited entity and their own business. Now, they run under my business name and reputation, and I will, as I say, I can teach you everything, but I can't teach you how to be a really good bloke, and how or a girl, a lass. But I can teach you everything in the middle, but I can't teach you how to be a good person and how to work hard. So the rest I can help and show you exactly how to do it and what's worked for me. But I also preface everything I say in life with, hey, what do I know? This is just what I do, and I'm myself. I'm all ears for input and growth myself. So,
yeah. So they all have their own commission, and they're not salaried.
No.
Yeah.
No salary. I have set some of them up whereby I help them kick off for 6 months. And then they're on their own, just to give them that softer entry, and then they pay me back.
Lovely. That's a great idea, actually, helping people when they're first starting out, especially if they're not, don't have a big book, or they don't have a big client base. They're sort of thinking, well, it might take me a while before I get my first loan done. So
that's
nice
right.
to have that little buffer there.
Look, it's not easy, and that's the biggest challenge. I'm sure you're going to ask me what's the biggest challenge for a new broker. Well,
I will.
That's one of them.
So you've got 3 other members, Craig and Tom Rockcliffe, who we have spoken to for the New Broker podcast.
True.
Who is perhaps better known outside of the broking industry as a sports star.
Yes.
And you've got another sports star in your midst as well. You're just collecting sports people. How has this come about?
It's interesting. Tommy Rockcliffe, he was the second broker to join the team. His father-in-law is a long-term client of mine. So once again, I got the tap on the shoulder when I was having dinner with his father-in-law to say, hey, would you mind taking a call from my son-in-law? I'm like, okay, who's your son-in-law? And then he told me, and I said, look, I have no idea. AFL, Tom's an AFL star. I said, I don't follow AFL, and I have no idea who he is. Not that he was promoting him as that, but he just said, he just plays a bit of AFL. And okay.
Just a bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then next thing you know, Tommy's given me a call, and he flew up from Adelaide to say good day. He was playing with Port Adelaide at the time, and the rest is history. He's just a really, really good lad. It's been a great entry.
I was laughing when we were speaking to him for the New Broker podcast, and he was saying he really had no intention of becoming a broker, and his father had suggested that he talk to you, and by the end of the conversation, he was 100% convinced and was like, yep, okay, I'm going to become a broker. And I was like, wow, Brendan Scott has got some really good sales pitch there that he's managed to turn him around on 180 degrees from basically being like, oh, I'm doing it because my father-in-law's told me to, yes, I'm going to actually do it.
Wow, yeah. Yeah, well, look, it is. Look, I'm pretty passionate about what I do, and what I love about it is the autonomy that it gives you. If you're able to really grind, and this is where I try to guide them. There's no recipe. There's no magic powder. There's there's nothing simple about just grinding it out. It's hard work, and you've got to put in the hours. And so anyway, if you're prepared to do that, let's go. And the world is your oyster. So I basically set myself up with these guys so that I want to provide them with an experience that was as good as I can,
Mm-hmm.
and without holding them back. So once they hit a certain volume turnover, they get even more brokerage, and once they get a larger turnover, they get even more brokerage split. So they, I don't want to hold them back, because at the end of the day, in 5 years' time, they're going to be superstars. 10 years' time, who knows? Let's hope, if they work hard enough. And then I don't want them to be turning around and thinking that they were hardly done by in any way.
That's nice.
For me, it's a